my name is Geci, Karuri Sebina. I'm an associate professor at the Wits School of Governance, where I am helping to set up the Tayarisha African Center of Excellence in Digital Governance, and where I also coordinate something called the Civic Tech Innovation Network, which is an African network of people who are civic tech innovators. My own background is in various fields of governance, so urban governance, urban planning, but also computer science and architecture. So a lot of my work is at the convergence of all of those, surprisingly. So we've been working with Wits Enterprise for almost 4 years now, which sounds like a very long time. And it really began from when I joined the Wits School of Governance and brought over the Civic Tech Innovation Network, because as a network that's not really traditionally just research, even though it's partially research, some of the activities it was doing as a community of practice really went beyond core business of what a university might typically do. And so the movement to engaging with Wits Enterprise had to do with finding the various services and areas of coordination or kinds of activities we wanted to do, kinds of contracting that we were doing that were sort of in the innovation space, but beyond typical academic space, because you're working then with civic organizations, we're working with different kinds of funders, and we found that it was quite challenging from where we sat to enter those kinds of relationships, and even just to figure out different ways of contracting and different ways of partnering. And so that's been going on since then. And so there are various projects on which we've worked with Wits Enterprise. Several of them have linked to the Civic Tech Innovation Network. We've had large sponsors, including the Mozilla Foundation, including recently the GIZ, the German funders through the African Union, and other funders. And what we've been able to do through Wits Enterprise, like I said, is enter innovative forms of partnering where sometimes perhaps they're contributing to an event. But recently, for example, with the AU Civic Tech Innovation Fund, we are actually going into quite a complex relationship where we have to work with 15 organizations across the continent. Entering that kind of relationship is very difficult when you're in a typical university bureaucracy. And also the nature of the partnerships goes into actual innovation space, R&D space, where again the issues can become complicated around intellectual property, around forms of partnering, about different kinds of organizations, different and complicated forms of reporting that the funders may require. And we've found that Wits Enterprise has the capacity in a way to focus on those issues, and we can focus on our business, which is more the content of the work. And so that's been a really good relationship. We've also been running for a few years now something called the Civic Tech Innovation Forum, and that's a really fun annual convening of people who we work with across the continent, but also with different local partners. So that includes the Human Sciences Research Council, it's included Uber recently, Mozilla again, and other partners and sponsors, and again in different configurations of why they're working with us. And it's been much easier to work with an organization like Wits Enterprise in terms of sort of figuring that out. Most recently, we are partnering around the IceGov conference, which is the biggest global e-governance conference held by the United Nations. And again, it's been a big relief to be able to work with Wits Enterprise, because it's the kind of conference that you don't go into easily, because it's a lot of work to have a global convening of 300 people coming into South Africa, government partnerships, complicated funding arrangements, online platforms that need to be created. And again, as a university program, we'd have little reason to commit to all of that if it wasn't that we are interested in the content. And what the partnership has allowed for us to do is to have Wits Enterprise facilitate a local organizing committee and those complex partnerships and relationships. And yet again, we can focus on content. I think an important win for our school has been in being able to go into some contracts or projects that we might not have done otherwise. So when I say that we need to be able to focus on content. Complicated administrative arrangements and complicated partnering arrangements is not something that we would easily entertain, and we'd really have to think about our capacity to enter some of those partnerships. So agreeing to host an IceGov conference when we know that a lot of the admin and backroom burden would come onto us as a school would be very difficult, because we've got very small, for example, marketing teams, very small comms teams, very small event organizing teams. So our ability to rally up that kind of support within an individual school of the university would be quite complicated. So I think one of the biggest wins has been us being able to go for the kinds of arrangements and contracts we might not have gone for if it wasn't that we could rely on a partner like Wits Enterprise. I think another win has... I don't want to underestimate this point about being able to focus on core business. So there's nothing that can be more frustrating for an academic than having to worry about legal contracts when you're not in the law department, or worrying about the catering arrangements when you're not in the hospitality unit. So I think that ability for the school to focus on our core business and to be able to confidently speak to partners and say, yes, we can deliver on those things, even if we know that we don't necessarily have the capacity within a particular school to do that. I think that's been a major win. I feel like also with the relationship with Wits Enterprise, we've really been able to be very accountable for the management of monies. That's a really big issue. So when you have partners, various international partners, all with their own reporting requirements, all with their own admin templates, all of them with their own financial rules, it's really important to be able to have competent people who've had experience, in some cases with those very same funders, who are then able to say, don't worry, Geci, we've got this. And I think we've really found that that's been possible with Wits Enterprise. Yes, I've been able to focus on my work. So honestly, for me, I'm the kind of person who I don't even like doing my personal finance. So dealing with project finances is really a headache. And I think it's been helpful to be able to come to Wits Enterprise and say, look, are we okay? Are the numbers okay? Can we go over them? And at least I'm just going over them, knowing that somebody competent has actually put them together. So for me personally, not having to have sleepless nights worrying about accounting, which is not my business, has been great. I think obviously the personal relationships we create in the course of going for proposals. That's another thing, by the way, being able to go through Wits Enterprise because a proposal opportunity is available. And again, if I had to think myself, I wouldn't go for it because I don't have the time to even think through the complicated proposal requirements. But if I know that I can call Tendani, I can call Tapedi, can we do this thing? If they say yes, we do it. And then I know that thereafter, it's really just about making sure that I'm on top of it in the sense of understanding things, but that there's somebody who's actually putting the numbers together. There's somebody who's actually going through the templates and the rules and details. I think for me, that's been a big personal win. So to the extent that I've been willing to go for the kinds of work that even I as an individual may not have been willing to if those things were going to be my problem.